Thank you very much. The moment has arrived, the moment when Darshak Mehta gets upstaged. It only happens once in an evening. My job is to introduce you to a man who needs absolutely no introduction. It's the reason, one of the main reasons we're here tonight. We live in a country that has celebrated its cricket teams since the game first came here. Australian captains hold a particular pride of place around this country. The history books will show that Pat Cummins is Australia's 47th Test captain. Yes, that's worth a round of applause. Cricinfo notes that he became captain in dramatic circumstances, I'll say. Other observers of the game say that the captaincy came quicker than he thought, but there was never any doubt that it would one day fall to him. Personally, he's battled with injuries that in decades past would have denied him his place in Australian cricket history. Publicly, he's witnessed the dramas that again could so easily have derailed or undermined his own position. But his transition into the captaincy role, although surrounded by controversy, appeared to be as smooth as silk. Perhaps that's why when one guest inside this room tonight, an insider, described Pat Cummins to me this way: Pat Cummins is a man who never loses his shit. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Australia's 47th and current men's Test cricket captain, Pat Cummins. Pat, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for also playing my video I brought in tonight. That's very kind. Thank you.
Look, I thought we might start off just kind of dipping our toes into the water, warming up a little, swimming out to the middle where it gets a bit deeper. And then I thought, what the heck, the room has been so good tonight, they've dug deep, so let's just dive straight in, shall we, and come up for oxygen a bit later.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So I'm going to take you back to the 26th of November 2021. It was the eve of the Ashes. You became the first fast bowler in Australian Test history, cricket history, to take on the role of the full-time captaincy. We know that Tim Paine resigned, caught up in a sexting scandal that was made public despite what many people involved in that situation had thought had been well and truly dealt with years earlier, but it was made public and this is what happened. Take us through the conversations in your own head, the conversations you were having with others, the conversation you were having with the woman that was to become your wife just recently about the role, what it would mean, and how you would handle it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to Alana for sharing your story earlier as well. That was, amazing. And congratulations on everything you're doing. It's amazing. So we were actually in quarantine in the Gold Coast. We just played the T20 World Cup, won the T20 World Cup, and flew into Gold Coast. We had 2 weeks quarantine. And my little boy Albie was born about a month earlier, so on, I think, day 4 we left the hospital, dropped him and Becky, my now wife, at home, and then I headed straight to the airport. So I hadn't seen him or Becky for a month, and that was kind of I remember Becky saying, it was hold on for dear life that month, but those 2 weeks in quarantine, she was going to join me, and that was like her, that's going to get me through the month. And same for me, I was pumped. So I thought this is going to be the best 2 weeks, focus purely on Becky and Albie, and then literally day 1, that gets dropped. So it was wild. I'd been vice captain for a few years, so I thought it might be on the radar, but I really didn't have any experience captaining at all. And then suddenly we're playing the biggest series that Australian Test cricketer plays, an Ashes series, in front of your own home crowd, and I was staring down the barrel of being a captain in a couple of weeks. I think the way I just kind of described it, half my mind was trying to be a really good dad and learning how to be a dad, and the other half was trying to work out how I was going to be a captain, and I felt like I was doing both terribly for a couple of weeks. And then, Becky went home with Albie, and I just kind of concentrated on what I needed to do. But yeah, it kind of didn't really hit me until I think I walked out at the Gabba wearing the captain's blazer, going for the toss, and it brought me back to my childhood when first ball of the summer you flick on the TV, it's always the Gabba Test match and Steve Waugh or Ricky Ponting's walking out to do the toss to start the Test series, and yeah, it's one of those really surreal moments.
And I guess the idea of being a captain is not the same as becoming one. And so in those moments, who did you think of? What kind of leadership did you want to model yourself in the mould of?
I think the previous kind of 2 or 3 years that I was vice captain, it was probably the first time that I really kind of dialed up, I guess, leadership and try to learn about different styles and how people go about it and try to absorb as much as I could. So I felt I was in as good a place as I could have been. Tim Paine was awesome to me, Justin Linger's coach was awesome, Aaron Finch. So I felt like I got a lot of kind of influences around. But honestly, I had no idea. And in some regards, I think it being sprung on me took a bit of the pressure off. I just wanted to make sure firstly my bowling was in order and my cricket. And yeah, I just kind of felt, especially that first series, the pressure's off. I've been given this role, I've got a bit of time, just try and do the best I can. And you get lots of pieces of advice along the way. I think one that stood out to me was no matter what captain you start out as, you always end up a better captain. So that, for me, that was a huge pressure release.
And why not a fast bowler before?
I don't know. I think batters try to look after their own. They're a pretty protective bunch, the batters.
So you're saying there is division in the team still?
Huge division, always. I don't know. There's the obvious few kind of unknowns that comes with being a fast bowler, injuries, just exhaustion out in the field. But yeah, I always think, the best captains I've played under are the ones that really get you as a bowler, your mindset, how to motivate you, what you need, and that's what we spend our lives doing as bowlers. So I knew even if some other areas I might not be as strong, talking to the batters, hot days out in the sun, I knew I had some other things that I'd been doing basically my whole life that hopefully would help.
We know from all of the stories that we read, that we consume, that we listen to broadcast on our airwaves, TV or radio, that being the captain of a sports team, especially an Australian sports team, and particularly the Australian men's cricket team, is not just being a captain when you're on the pitch. It's now a 24/7 scenario. How does that impact your life outside of cricket? And do we, the adoring fans, expect too much from players today?
I think at times. It's an all-consuming job. It's the best job in the world. Absolutely love it. But I think, when you boil it down to someone like a Tim Paine, he's still in his 30s, someone that can make mistakes. None of us are perfect. We're going to stuff up at times. But, I think it's a responsibility that whether you're a captain or just a player, I've always felt really strongly about. It always takes me back to my childhood and the esteem I held the Aussie cricketers. Whatever they said, I would have believed as Bible. It comes with different responsibilities. I think time's a big one, probably the big difference. Now being a dad as well, it's just there's a lot more demands on my time, but it's all good things. I don't know, it's all good.
You paid a nice tribute there to Tim Paine. But when there's a public shaming involved into somebody losing a position as a captain of the cricket team or any Australian sport, does it carry with it an element that he can never get back to being the person he was or a better person than that? Is he going to be forever the forgotten captain of the Australian team?
I don't know. I know us players certainly won't forget him. He's brought the Ashes back from a series over in England. That's huge. That hasn't been done for 20 years. He's had some real significant, accolades during his time. It's a shame that, a lot of the time you kind of just want to be a cricketer and concentrate on that. But of course you can't. That's not reality. I think we all get taglines which kind of have nothing to do with the cricket. For years I was, the injured fast bowler, which used to frustrate me, but it's not who you are. So I think, someone like Paine is, firstly as a mate, you just want to make sure he's okay. Again, honest mistakes. I felt like he did the right thing. Sorry, I thought he did the wrong thing, but he tried to fix the situation as best as he could, and personal things, everyone has it. So I personally didn't think it was a huge deal, and I really feel for him.
So you believe in redemption, but what does redemption look like, and who gives redemption? Is it teammates? Is it Cricket Australia? Is it the public? Is it your family? Where does that come from?
I think the most important is yourself. You've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You've got to be able to sleep well at night. And I guess when it comes to me, or I'm my own toughest critic, and I want to live the life I do. Luckily, it's in a position that comes with a bit of interest and a bit of responsibility. But hopefully, in our team, we try and build the kind of environment where we're kind of keeping each other in check, but also looking after each other. But I think it comes for everyone, but it's got to be yourself. You've got to take ownership of your own life, your own career, whatever it is.
So how do you separate that? Because this modern era, everyone's entitled to say everything about anybody on multiple platforms, and so you say you are your toughest critic, and you go home and look in the mirror and you're trying to deal with yourself, but there's all this other noise as well, and other people throwing stuff at you. How do you put that aside to become the man that someone in this room said, you never lose it, you keep it together? How?
Well, I bought the red wine up here in case I do lose it a bit later. It's a different skill. I think you have to be really proactive about it. For me, over the years, I've learned just the early warning signs when I'm reading too much or hearing too much. So I'll go some series where I just delete all social media, won't read any news. Some days I have a good day and I read it all. But I hear a lot of sports people talk about, they cop abuse and it's not on, and of course it's not on, but I still think we've got a role to play that you've got control of that. You don't have to switch on Twitter every time you look at your phone or things like that. So I think it's a skill just like batting or bowling. You've got to be able to dial it in to use it as motivation. You've got to be able to zone it out when you know it's not serving a purpose. And again, hopefully in the team, you know what your worth is. You hope you know that everyone around there cares about you, and kind of a lot of that outside noise is just noise.
So is this something that came with you as a child, growing up in a pretty large family, Catholic family, western suburbs of Sydney? How did you find cricket? What was it that drew you to the game?
So I'm one of 5 kids, but 2 older brothers. My dad loves cricket, mum loves sport, both sisters love sport. So as soon as I was able to walk, really, I was in the backyard chasing my 2 brothers. And cricket was just always that love. I don't know what it is. I was always the youngest, but I never thought age was a handicap. It was serious stuff, our backyard cricket. Or whether it was hallway footy or soccer or darts or whatever we were playing, sometimes throwing the darts at each other. But it was ultra competitive, and I just loved every part of it. I was that annoying kid at Dad tells stories. He coached a couple of years and he said, you were that annoying kid that just wanted to bat and bowl and be part of everything. But I think when it boils it down, I think it probably boils down to 2 things, and that's I love playing with my older brothers and being competitive, and I love the camaraderie of cricket. Even in the middle of a fielding, long day, in between balls, you get to talk to your best mate, which is unlike any other sport. Mm.
And that sense of being part of a team and being able to go through good times and bad times together, does that come from a history in your family? Have you learnt things like that, and is that what you take to your leadership?
I hope so. I think no matter whether you have a really good day or a bad day, we were lucky. Our home was very, very, the same, consistent. You could set your clock to it. If you scored 100, nothing sure you're going to get knocked down a couple of pegs. If you went none for 100, you're probably going to cop it that night. And I think it's a great leveller. And yeah, I think it's a characteristic that really a lot of sports people have. You've got to be able to ride the low times just as well as you ride the high times. I think it's something in a big family over dinner every night. You had to have your right of reply kind of ready.
So when you came in as captain, what was your number one priority?
Number one.
Or did you just have a jumble of priorities running through your head and waiting for it to sort itself out somewhat?
Yeah, no, I had a few. I'm really big on how the team. I saw the team functioning at its best. In cricket, we've got 11 players, but they're all so different. Not only personalities, in age groups. My first Test match, I played with Ricky Ponting, who was literally double my age. You have people spread out all across Australia, but you also have really different roles. A wicket keeper's so different to a fast bowler, different to a spinner, different to a batter. So we're really big on kind of empowering each person to do their role exactly how they see fit. So much pressure's piled on from the step up, from state cricket to international. So we spend more time trying to just remove that pressure, just be free. We actually had a cameraman that came he filmed our last documentary, and I said to him, "What have you found surprising about being, in part of our group for 2 years?" And he goes, "I can't believe how often you blokes say, keep it simple." And I think it's something we always remind ourselves, because we get caught in overthinking things and too much pressure. And as a leader, just wanted to make sure, really empowered 11 individuals coming together, really big on environment, morale. We spend 10, 11 months of the year on the road. Obviously, lots of time in the change room on the ground, but we're in airports, we're in hotel rooms. You've got to have a functioning team that gets on and has fun. And I think, and I hope, as well as that, I hope we don't lose sight that we're not overly special. We're Aussie people. The world doesn't revolve around us, and we've got some kind of perspective.
I'll come back to perspective in a moment, because that's really interesting. And you've got some interesting things that you do outside of cricket. But where does winning sit as a priority in a team like Australia that becomes very used to it? And when we don't, there's all sorts of trauma.
Yeah, and I grew up in the era of our early 2000s that won everything, so I hold ourselves to higher standards. I think it's an easy topic to talk about and to critique on. I think it's harder to kind of switch on and off as a player. You don't, it wouldn't be fun if the same team won every single game. I think you don't make international cricket unless you're super competitive. And I always kind of feel like the more relaxed environment we can have when you step out on the field, my players that I've seen, and it gets the best out of myself, you have that ability to switch it on even better and last even longer. So I don't think it's something we need to speak about too much. I think everyone's got it there, and it's that little boy in the backyard trying to beat your older brothers.
So one of the things that I find really interesting with the cricket team is that in lots of other sports, there'll be drama or controversy when things are going bad. Australian cricket, it can be going excellently, and there's still going to be dramas and controversies. Now, I'm not going to mention Justin Langer, but let's say, for instance, you have a coach, you win the T20 World Cup for the first time, you've won the Ashes, you pretty much win everything, but he's not going to be renewed for the same amount of time that he was previously. He doesn't get the contract. Yeah. There's talk of all sorts of division. You guys are on top. How would you decipher that kind of a scenario?
Well, a lot of the controversies, you've got Pete Layla in the room. He seems to find them. Sorry, Pete. That's harsh. I think that was the first big challenge for me as a leader. As you said, we won the World Cup, we won the Ashes series. My responsibility is with my teammates and how do I think the team's going to run the best. We spoke a lot about it over the last couple of years. We did a lot of sessions. Everyone was really clear on the direction we wanted to take the team. And Jay was fantastic throughout that whole time. But it wasn't anything, there wasn't blow-ups, there wasn't huge factions. There was, just thought it was a natural time to then move on to the next phase. And it happens all the time, I guess, with us players. Someone might be part of a winning side, but we feel like it's time for a freshen up. And that was just one of those moments. And obviously wish Jale all the best. Still got a really good relationship with him. He was fantastic, but I think it was just one of those kind of things where the natural, it kind of run its course. We're really, really motivated, really, I guess, focused and sure on what's next for this playing group. And it just came to an end.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? Because eras change and times change around eras, and different eras bring out different personalities, and there's a different kind of chemistry to winning or playing well as a team or feeling relaxed and together as a team. And so how will you know when your time's up? How will you know when that era has cycled through enough and has moved on and changed, and you will no longer be part of that?
It's a good question, and I don't know. I've spoken to a few ex-captains about it. A lot of them have kind of mentioned, I don't know if Greg has any thoughts on it, but kind of around the 30, 40 tests, you start getting tired, you start feeling like you need to freshen up. It might be 4 or 5 years, but hopefully it's not too soon. My goal is to try and make sure the next person's going to fit in seamlessly, and that's already started. Start trying to upskill a few guys. Someone might jump out, but it starts now. If I'm injured, the same. Hopefully someone steps right in.
Now, let's talk about the bird's eye view that you take. And a lot of players we know, they just live, breathe. Everything is cricket from the time they were very young. You're a bit different to that. So you kind of pull back and you look at the globe. You look at where cricket is played, but you take a bigger view and you see cricket's place amongst everything else. You're very active in the climate change arena. Why is that? And is that something that developed as an escape from the pressure of cricket? Or have you always just seen cricket as just one part of who Pat Cummins is?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably grown over the last couple of years. I find, there's lots of different things that interest me, and I kind of ramp up some when I feel like if I'm getting too cricket orientated, that's when I normally try to find something new or try and step into another zone. The same if cricket's not that on, cricket's not that busy, I'll find myself watching more cricket on TV. So I think it's just trying to kind of manage a few different interests and whatever piques my interest at that time. But mum and dad are really kind of naturally curious people, and they've really instilled that in us kids. So I think it's always been there, and I feel really lucky to have the platform that I do and people listening, and just want to try and do the best I can in this position. And I think it's a wasted opportunity if you don't have a few strong beliefs that you try and put forward.
How many other players in the team do the cryptic crossword and read the sorts of books that you read?
Yeah, probably, no.
True mark of a leader, isn't it? He's a bit strange, a bit off there on his own. So the conversations you have, the conversations you enjoy most with your teammates, what are they about? And given you've all recently got married and you're on the way to, a different phase of your life.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Depends who it is. If it's Joshy Hazelwood, it's probably punting at the pub. Anything, it's...
So run through the team. What sticks out about the person? Give us one word with each player.
Okay. Davey Warner, expert at everything. Talk about a fact book. He knows one fact about everything in the world.
Should he be captain again? Should he be captain at some point?
Yeah, I don't see why not. He's a brilliant leader. Yeah. Hope so.
Okay.
So Davey's just Energizer Bunny, always going. Manus, don't know, just quirky, high energy again, just a 12-year-old kid. Smithy is Manus kind of weird, so they get on really well. But he'll be someone who loves cryptic crosswords for a week, and he's just 100 cryptic crosswords a day, and then he goes, oh, that's boring. I hate cryptic crosswords, and moves on to the next thing. Who else do we have? I'm trying to think. Cam Green's the sweetest young kid you'll ever meet, just so polite. And then bowls 145k rockets and hits it a mile. And then, all the bowlers are pretty similar, really. Joshy, Starkey, Lino, pretty reserved. They're really good mates. We've been playing together for 10, 11, 12 years. We hang out a lot together. We're all, obviously, talk the most sense. But it's hard to describe because we literally spend way more time with each other than we do our own wives. We spend 10, 11 months of the year on the road. They all now pack their PlayStations with headsets. So for me to fit in, I pack my headset and my PlayStation, and I'm terrible, but I do it for the banter. So I don't know. Everyone's got their own interests, and it's a good mix. It's not boring.
So if you were to write your own cricketing eulogy, okay, not your life story, but the story of Pat Cummins and cricket, what are the games? What are the moments? What are the wickets? Who are the opponents that you would like mentioned in a history of your story?
Well, Test cricket's my favourite format, and the reason why is just that it's such a physical effort. Even an easy win, you've got to bowl the team out twice. It normally takes 4 days. So I'd love to be known as someone in those really tough moments who stood up, who wanted the ball, who obviously was part of a lot of match-winning series for Australia. India's a huge series, Ashes is a huge series, and then in the white ball, the World Cups, they're the big ones. So lucky to experience most of those things, but you do it once and you just want to keep doing it forever.
Is there one that stands out, one moment, that if you could frame it, that would be it?
Yeah, I'd say the 2015 World Cup, MCG. I wasn't even playing, I was running drinks. But it just the most amazing 100,000 people there at the MCG. It just felt like the whole of Australia was watching, and I just couldn't believe I was in the middle of it. So I think I was the first person to high-five Starkey when he took that wicket. I was out there that fast. But that's just, I think I was 21, 22, just still a kid, and that's, for me, just doesn't get any better.
So let's talk about Test cricket briefly, because it really is under threat, isn't it? You've got the rise of T20 competitions all around the place. We're in a room full of people tonight who really appreciate what you were talking about, the subtlety and the strategy of winning a Test match. Are we going to lose that because the money of the game is in T20 and the rise of leagues all over the world, to the point where we even had a one-day series coming up in summer that was cancelled because there's a new T20 competition starting in South Africa? Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I hope not. First of all, as a cricket tragic, I really hope not. It's my favourite format. It's what I grew up watching on TV and loving the most. I think seeing people in the room here today, still each Test match in Australia especially, you see big crowds. So there's definitely appetite in certain places of the world. So I don't know the answer. Is the calendar's getting more and more full, but that's...
Do the players have, as they become richer and more powerful, some people say obscene amounts of money going into your bank accounts, but does that give you the ability to have more of a say when an organisation like Cricket Australia is putting the calendar together?
Perhaps. I think you've seen the example of someone like Virat Kohli and the power he can have when he celebrates Test cricket. And you've seen India, rise to number one in the world in recent years. And you do see the influence of the main players in the game. When they speak, people do listen. So I do feel some responsibility. How it all fits together, I've got no idea. But I just hope in 20 years' time, it's more important that it's in a good shape than, in 2 years' time.
So talking in 20 years' time, if you think about the next generation of cricketers coming through, the next generation of captains, they're going to be wearing those shoes that have been worn by 46 people before you. What's your message to the future Australian cricket captains, both men and women?
Yeah, I think... I'm really early in my tenure, so I feel like Greg or someone else should be speaking about this. But I think, do it your own way. It's you can easily get caught up in idolising the players of the past, but it's different eras. You know, time moves on. Your challenge is going to be similar, but some might be different to what they were in the past. So I think having the courage to hopefully do it my way, and I would encourage others to do that. And I think, be really strong on, your responsibilities. I feel, a real sense of responsibility to my teammates, but Australian cricket, I owe it so much. I always think of that little kid in the backyard that just loves it so much. So I try and remember those two things as much as I can.
And I want to finish on this. I can't believe the time has gone by so quickly, but there was news today that one of Australia's great sporting champions, Lauren Jackson, she's the only Australian basketballer, male or female, that is in the US Hall of Fame for basketball. And her career was cut short. She's played multiple Olympic Games, World Cups. Her career was cut short through injury, and I know that you know what it's like to face something like that, although yours happened early on in your career. But today she was renamed in the team as a 41-year-old, and she has fought back and rebuilt her body. And I just wonder if you think that the physical strength required to be a champion athlete is actually governed by a very powerful mental attitude. Which wins out?
Oh, mental every time. Yeah, every time. I think that's... You obviously get your, freak athletes, but I think so much of the game played at our level is just that who can come back from setbacks, who can think through problems, who can ride the wave for playing 200 days of the year. So it's so important, and it's a skill like any other. You learn it, you've got to look after it. So important.
Give us one word to describe you.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very cool Australian cricket captain. Thanks, Pat. Don't go away. Stay there. Now, just before Pat goes, I know that he's actually going to be back here at the SCG, aren't you, with an event of your own in September?
Yes.
You wanted to give that a bit of a plug?
SCG 11 event that I'm captain of is here, when is it? September 14? 14. So everyone come along. We've only got 10 spots in the 11. I'll be batting at 3, so hope to see you all there. Need plenty of fielders.
All right, now, before you go, I am going to announce the silent auction winners in just a moment, so please don't all break off just yet. But first of all, to present a token of our thanks, would you please welcome back Greg?
Just a very big thank you, Pat, for being available. We know it's just the middle of your honeymoon, although you did tell me your wife's gone to Bali, but honeymoons are different these days, it appears. But mate, thank you very much from the bottom of not only my heart, but for all the organisations out there that do the work that they do for youth homelessness in this country. We all say a big thank you to you. So if you'll accept that as a token of our esteem. When you see Pat doing the job as Australian captain and you listen to him speak here, you wonder why there haven't been more fast bowlers that have captained Australia, but there are not very many Pat Cummins. What you see is what you get. Thank you, Paddy.
Thanks,
cheers, mate. And while I'm here, to our interviewer par excellence, Tracy, thank you again for a brilliant interview, and thank you for emceeing the evening. You're an absolute star. Thank you. And Damien, where are you? So you had to go? He was here. Yep. Damien's had to take off, but to Damien in an absentia, thank you very much for a brilliant job with the auctioneering. But I have one other very pleasing announcement. John Coates has accepted our invitation to join our list of patrons, and thank you, John. a wonderful addition to our list of patrons, and again to you, James. James Sutherland also accepted our invitation recently, two of Australia's best sporting administrators, and it's our absolute pleasure to have you both on our list of patrons to add to what is already a very august list. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing a lot more of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you very much.